Hey there, my social media peeps. I got a comment the other day. People want to know what I use when, everybody wants to know what you use for your cut and buffs and all that. I take 600. Let me go through the sanding process. I do 600. I cut it flat with 600 with acrylic block. And then from there, I use another acrylic block that's got a small piece of foam on it. Maybe I'll show that later. I've showed it before. It was that white block in the previous one. But anyway, then I go 600, I go 1,000, and then I do 1,500, then I 2,000, 2,500, then I do Trizac 3,000. And, this is kind of what it looks like that's 3,000 right there. Of course that's buffed right there, but that's 3,000 right there. Anywho, so I'm going to kind of tilt it more this way. So I use a Presta black and white low lint pad. For a wool pad, it hardly get, the first couple times you use it, you get a little bit of the wool stuff flying all over. But after that, it's super clean. I love these pads. I use Meguiar's M100. If you haven't used Meguiar's M100, I'm telling you, for a good cut, this stuff can't be beat. I just bought, see the yellow bottle over there, Farkella or whatever. I tried it out. Doesn't compare. Does not compare whatsoever. Anyway, so there's a couple different methods, whether you put it on your pad, or I usually do a thin circle on my pad, or if you see a spot on your panel that you want to take care of, that you don't want to miss, then I'll put it on the panel. But like this here, I just did some buffing, so you don't use a lot, but you use enough to have a nice thin film. So I always start mine out at 600, and then you'll see me move it around until it won't fling, and then I bump it up. I use 1,200 myself. Seems like with this buffer, that's a sweet spot. Maybe your buffer at 1,200 is a little different. I don't know, but when I get a spot, I do a 2x2 pattern, right? Like this here. And so I start out real slow, and about a 2 foot by 2 foot box. A little bit too far that way, huh? So anyway, I do a 2x2 pattern. Now that I got it starting to work, I bump it up. There's 1,200, and then I just, you make a nice square pattern. You'll see a nice thin film on there. You don't want to load up your pad, but you do want to have enough for it to do the cutting process. But anyway, so as you see, I do a 50% pattern. So I'll do 50 by 50, and then I'll go this way. Depending on your panel, whether you can go like this or that, but if there's a little curve to your panel, I end up just turning my buffer one way. Now so I'll go this way, and I don't go real fast. I just put enough pressure down to keep it even. I don't press down on my buffer. I let the pad and the compound do its job. You see, I do it that way, and then I'll come back and 50% overlay, and I'll just keep going like that. You can't tell it, but it's got a nice little coating on it. I'll just sit here and do this. I'm gonna cut it short, but this is basically what I do. You know, I just do it one way, then do it another way. And take note. You see how much wool is coming off this pad? None. Once these Presta pads get broken, your shop will not be filled with wool. They are an awesome pad. Anyway, I'll stop that. I'm not quite what I've done yet, but for my compounds, I just use these regular microfibers. So I just use these regular microfibers. I have the Rag Company Edgeless 500 GSM ones, but just for your compound. Now look, take your tips and put them all into the center. If you got soft clear like mine's new, and you take this nylon edge and you push too hard, it'll create a scratch. But anyway, so and sometimes I'll walk away. I'll walk away for a couple minutes just to let this for it to cool down just a little bit. I've checked this over and over. It gets a panel about 95 degrees running like that, and I use that 3M double-sided foam cutting pad with that Farkella. It heats up. It was like 110. I wasn't comfortable with I don't want my clear to move or get hot. So, and that's where I'm at. You know, this is my first stage. And I'll post. You know, so I'll post my second one, then I'll post my third stage. But anyway, coming in through the window there, you can't see it, but it's the best way to see if you've with these LEDs over his head, and with that coming in, you can see if you got any sand scratches left. And then also, what I'll do is I'll turn this light on, and then I'll turn out the lights in the shop. Look at it, and you know, you got to have it kind of down at an angle coming across, because that'll catch any shadows. Anyway, that's my buffing procedure. You know, everyone's got their own thing. You know, this is my thing. This is how I do it. I'm not saying, you know, some people use DAs. I'm a rotary guy. So yeah, that's where I'm at, you know. So if you got any questions, let me know. And I can say, if you guys want the part number of the Presta pad, or you just Google it, it's Presta black and white pad. All right, have a good day. We'll catch you all later.